Good morning. I brought my cup of tea with me because I'm at that age where I need tea to talk and to tell stories. So before I begin, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. However, before that, thank you to the prayers, the pipes that were lifted for us, because prayer is good. It guides us for the day. So, dana entretayasti Rosalie Tsannie-Burseth hushi Tsannie-Burseth. C'était qui angis chu Julian Tsannie Hulier Tsannie-Burseth a year ni young which naga residential school nether. My name is Rosalie Tsannie-Burseth. My parents are Angus and Julian Tsannie, late. They passed away recently. I lived on the land until I went to residential school, is what I said. So let me know if you can't hear me. I tend to have a soft voice, so I remember doing that when I was teaching kindergarten. With a soft voice, students have to listen, right? So I was trying to get them to sing louder. This is kindergarten. I kept doing this as I'm going. Pretty soon they're all doing this too. So first I'd like to say, whether we believe it or not, or want to, or is that we're all colonized. We all are, in many ways, with our language, and also the stolen generation, as the Australians would call that, because I'm part of that. So my offspring, my generation, I have to teach. I'm a hunter. I've hunted with Chief Cameron. He's not here, but I have three, what they call a bucket list in my life. It's hunting caribou, picking berries, and fishing in the summer. And I haven't hunted for about 3 or 4 years because the caribou were a little bit in decline. Picking berries, I didn't last year, but that's my connection. So to be on topic, all the things that are on my bucket list has to do with land. As my late father would say, the land raised me. Ni sinesha, that land raised me. Because years ago, when orphans were kind of raised by other caregivers, they were kind of a bit abused, and he went through that as well. And it was by the hands of his stepmother, who was a residential school survivor. However, he's not angry about it, but he said, I pray for her every day. So because I've gone hungry many times, the land raised me. The land raised me, and the land fed me. So my favorite, or my daughter's favorite saying is, in a lot of ways, as First Nations, we're all similar and different. And she would say, same, different. We're just in different landscape, right? In the south and in the north. In the north, I'm finding, because I teach at the university, that our language is strong. In the south, I've taught at St. Louis with First Nation students from the south. Did I ever learn a lot from them? It was just awesome. We talked and we taught each other. Even about powwows. For me, a powwow was a powwow, because that's not in my knowledge system, right? It's not in my intellectual space. So she said, the first people who dance are the grass dancers, because they're looking for, they're setting kind of like the trail. They're looking for maybe if there's bad medicine. So those are things that I learned, and I really appreciated that. So although we're different in many ways, our values and belief system are similar. We have the Dene traditional values that we follow today. You have your grandfather teachings, the creation stories that you have. I've always been a land person from day one. I taught First Nation, or it used to be Saskatchewan Indian Federated College, and they had me teach an outdoor ed. This is in 1995. And I've done what we call land-based education, land-based learning, land-based teachings way back then. So they offered me this lecturing, teaching job, and I said, you know, if I'm going to teach these students about outdoor education, they must come to the land. For whatever reason, they approved my proposal, and I took these students right down from Regina area, all the way up to Wollaston Lake, on the lake, in the bush. So, and one of my students are sitting here, Steve. Steve is here, and you would never forget about that, because I know they still contact me today. When I started teaching in Hatchet Lake, where I'm from, 1987, it was still Northern Lights School Division, and there were only 10 teachers, and I was the only first or Dene teacher there. And the superintendent came down and said, welcome, this is your teaching position, this is what you're going to do, this is our expectations, but I want to advise you on one thing, he said. Your role as a teacher here, you teach in a classroom, you teach a curriculum, and you cannot get involved in the community. And I'm going, really? Mom and Dad, I have a huge family. I always say Wollaston is totally related to me. So, as the person that I am, I defied the system. So, thank you. When the kindergarten students came in, when I started teaching, not one spoke English. The people in my community all spoke Dene only. So how can I go and teach these little children? You know, I at the time it was whole language, a concept of teaching phonics, whole language, and our unit was about fish. Talking about units in kindergarten already, we follow that curriculum. So anyway, I said, we're going to talk about fish today. What kind of fish do we have in Wollaston Lake? And all my little students are sitting there looking at me. Trout, pickerel, it just came out at me in Dene. So that's when I decided I'm going to do both. So I've always done that. Because the children need to know the concepts. So, and one day the bus came in, and the smallest little girl came and she was dragging this garbage bag, just dragging it. She brought it in, she said, no, it's whitefish. I know you like whitefish. So that day became a whitefish day, that afternoon. So we touched it, we smelled it, we cooked it, we tasted it. That's what the land education is to know your environment and what the land has to offer us. So my lifelong career since 1987 has been to teach my language and culture. At residential school in Duck Lake, St. Michael's, we were told not to speak our language. For fear of being heard, my sister and I used to whisper. And that day forth, I said, in the future, I'm going to work on my language and culture. And how can you imagine your 6-year-old children, grandchildren, and just tell them, just silence them, you can't talk. And by now we should be teaching their languages. They should be speaking our languages. So I've always been an advocate for that, and I've went around in different parts of Indigenous countries where I did a lot of talks on the work that I've been doing. So, and doing a lot of culture camps. So as we're here sitting, even though there's same difference that we have, we're very respectful people. We understand each other. We all have to work. We have to have one goal in mind, and to do that flip side, which is to decolonize. And when I learned a few years ago in one of my classes, one class paper by Henhawk talks about how in himself as an Indigenous person realized he was colonized severely, and he said, the war zone in my head. I went through that phase. So just to kind of, so since then I've been doing a lot of work in my language, even more so, an advocate to say that our language is important. We want our language programs to be set in beautiful classrooms, and I was just talking to my aunt who's sitting over there, my aunt who's a lot younger than me, and she said, I teach language. I don't have a classroom, and I'm driving this cart around, and I pretend that I'm a nurse, going around, going from classroom to classroom. And you know what? That has to stop. Because I know in your schools, language and culture is kind of put in the back, right? It's not really important right now because the curriculum is important. So for me, that's the person that I am, and what I aspire to do is to inspire you today, because I just really thought about it. And a lot of my talk is going to be on my lived experience on the land, because it's the land that taught me. I've been on the land hunting in snowmobile trails thinking, what were my ancestors doing here? How were they dressed 200 years ago? What were they saying? What were they doing? Were they thinking about us in the future? So I think that way. So I've been to many conferences, and I just want us to do a little activity, because we have had a lot of heavy-duty stuff, and I just love your talk, Tanya, because I have to say something about languages. Did you notice her intonation, how we were talking about there when she said treaty? We would say that. She said treaty, which I like, because South End people, it almost sounds like they're singing. And then some people say, when you speak Dene, you guys sound like you're arguing and you're mean and you're fighting. And our next door neighbors, Lac Brochet, the Dene community, their favorite thing is ee. So anyway, observant of languages, and I've been studying languages quite a bit, and I teach it at university as well. So what I'm going to do right now, when I was at, somebody left their glasses here. I was at Hawaii many years ago, and they were doing this dance. And what they were doing, each indigenous person from wherever country they were supposed to do a dance, all in a huge forum. It was huge. So they're all dancing, depicting a dance of their culture. So what I'm going to ask you to do, just to get up and exercise a little bit, at your table, talk about something to do with land, water, air, a song, and make a little song and dance out of it. So you may want to combine together. So if you can do that. If there's just only 2 or 3, go mix in with someone. And you're going to present that up here. So So whenever your group is ready, stand up and do your song and dance. I'll give you 2 minutes, because I have a lot of content to go through. I don't see anybody standing yet. Start moving. You can turn it on. I'm going on to slide number 3. Yeah. Oh no, number 4. Right there. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have one group ready. You don't have enough time? Oh, okay. Okay. So I need a group to come up now. I only give you a couple minutes. So if you're ready, you want to get up and show us? And you have to tell us what your dance is. Okay, are you ready? And one of your, from your group, just explain what you're going to be doing. I only see two groups working away, and we're almost, so someone's going to explain the dance that you're doing. So, do girls? Testing, okay. Can someone explain?
Tell us the assignment once more.
Okay, you are to do a dance that you've talked together as a group. I like this one better. To make up a dance that is related to the land, the water, or the sky, or even animals. The land, yeah.
Yeah, we got this. Okay. No, it needs no explanation.
Okay, we have our first group here. So if you can listen, all eyes over here, they're going to do a dance for us. And are they going? Okay, here we go. Oh, thank you. That's a song to the skies. So we saw one group over here practicing. Did you want to do? Okay. Okay. What was that?
Old spider, climbed up, and then it rained, and he fell down.
Well, give them a hand. Two groups. Okay, here. Thank you. I just wanted to have a little bit of movement here and the things that you can do in terms of song or activities, dance activities. I think that I'm getting feedback from here. Oh, sorry. Can I get this back? Now, and that was in Cree, which is really good.
Thank you.
And the dance, the creativity that you can do in 2 minutes. So imagine what you can do in your classroom. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, apparently I used to sing a song, and I want to sing you a song. And this one elder used to call me Dawadzis. So I think about 20 years ago, he's passed on now, and I said, "Why do you call me Dawadzis?" And he said, "When you're a little girl, you used to sing this, Dagolderi, Dawadzis, Dagolderi, Dawadzis." And I said, what was I saying? And then at the very early age, I learned the government's a lie, is what I was singing. So I must have heard that, right? About the treaties, about land displacement. So it must have been my grandfather. My grandfather used to sing. So I picked that on pretty early. So I'm showing you this picture here. What do you see when you see landscape like that? And that is in northern, on the north end of Wollaston Lake. We go there every summer. One would think it's just a picture, right? But it's more than that. By the way, most of the photographs I take, I do myself. I'm an amateur photographer. So I look at this and I'm going, wow, okay. I asked someone at one time, where were the caribou? And I remember we have a tent right on the sandbar. And he said, you're standing right here. In the winter, you used to snowmobile by here. This is where your pillow is sitting. So I'm going, really? Okay. So, is it working? Okay, so what I've done as I'm doing this presentation, I thought deeply about it. And click it. Yeah. Thinking, how am I going to talk about land-based education to really give you inspiration and to think about it as well. So when I look at this beautiful photo, I see a photo that depicts Dene way of life, or even in northern Saskatchewan, the Cree who are in that area as well. I also see ancient trails, stories, and creating a good life. So I've been to berry picking where there's trails from a long time ago, and they would say, when we're on the land up at Thainu, they would say, this is where so-and-so used to live. This is where Maurice's Azzi and Joe used to live, and she was a renowned midwife. So, and living on that land for many years. And what I also see is a lot of water, a lot of trees, clouds, air, peace, tranquility, serenity. Because when I'm out on the land, and we take children out on the land, they feel that. They feel at ease. They feel they're making that connection to the land, even to the water. You ever see a baby playing with water? They're so enthralled, they're right in there, and they're playing and they're wondering. So as well, I see with the land a lot of aromatherapy, all the plants that are there, the berries that are there, the medicines. And I have a story about berries as well when I come to terminology about Dene. So, and then a lot of fish and a lot of moose, caribou, etc. And the last one there, and hunting trails. So I have to get this to work here, though. It's not working. Okay. Oh, there we go. And then another picture here that really depicts a way of life. And this, you wouldn't believe it or not, this is only about 70 years ago, before we even came to Wollaston. And you look at that photo, and all the teachings are on there. And women were revered. They did not leave the toboggan. And you wouldn't believe it or not, there's children in that toboggan. So, and then what do you see in the background are men preparing fire, cooking. So when all that is done, the toboggan opens up and out comes the little children and the women, So was it cold? Right now we're complaining it's cold, right? They lived in the cold here. And when I say I'm cold, someone used to say, well, you used to say you were born in a snowbank, but I was born in June. So the next slide. This photo I love. I have to share the story. When it was Northern Light School Division, 1989, I talked to the program in L'Orange, and I said, we're Dene, we need to learn, I need to take the students out on the land. So I put in a proposal and I got it. And the proposal was to take the kids out up north on many islands. And it was a memorable trip. So we hired this twin otter, we flew up and spent about 7 days just working, getting wood, getting fish, hunting. The children were taken out on land and the hunters were teaching them. So Friday came along and I had to select a group of students that had to go Friday and then the next day. And these are middle years. So you would think young teenagers would want to go home on Friday, right? No, I had to hand select them. I said, okay, this group is going to go with me today, the next group will go today. So as we're flying, plane takes off, and I see one of the young students looking down, looking very sad. And I asked him, and it was one of the students, well, I have to tell, I've always used this story, it was Hector Jr. Kelther. And I said, what's wrong? He said, I'm really sad. And he had tears in his eyes, and he said, when I look down there, there's trails. Our grandfathers, Nohe have lived here for years and years, and I just want to know how their lives were, because I see change, and things are changing, and it's not really good. And I want that life, I want that knowledge. So with incidents like that, I really work for the cause, what we call working for the cause. So students would know who they are as Dene Cree within the province of Saskatchewan. So I think it is incumbent upon us to start doing the teachings. And before I go on to the next slide, who speaks their language in here? Can you put your hand up? Okay. Who's a hunter here? Who hunts? Yay! There's hunters. And I've been told when I go hunting that, in fact, one of my friends and said, you hunt? You're not supposed to hunt. Women don't hunt. I'm going, really? Well, in my community, women hunt. And we follow all the protocols, though. I said, long time ago, when your grandfather was gone for many weeks, who did the hunting for you when you're living out in the cold in a tent? She said, grandmother. Okay, I rest my case. So I'll go to the next slide here. I'm just going to just use that because I can't really see here. And I'm sorry about that. So I'm going to talk about, someone asked me what Erena. Erena is the same word, not same, a broad term about Pimatsuin. I learned that in one of my classes with my Cree friends. It's a way of life, how we create our life as we are today. All of us in this room have lived a life that was taught to us by our grandparents, our parents as well. So it is, we follow our traditional teachings. It's really a complicated term. It's multifaceted. It can't be interpreted at all, because life means life and death, birth and death. Life means how you can create good upbringing to your family and to your children and to your community. So, and I remember my father, when he was in hospital, he just had surgery, and the doctor said, you have to tell your father that, this keeps coming up here, that he has cancer. So I'm going to look, well, how do I tell my father this, because I'm emotional. And I said, well, can I tell him after he feels better, when he recovers? And the doctor said, no, tell him now. So in Dene I said, Sata anadana gunits, and we call it, it's like I don't know what it is in Cree cancer, it's like a bug of some kind. It's so, and he didn't flinch at all. And he said, Ereno enila, that's life. Didn't bother him, didn't faze him. So it encompasses all nuance of Dene life, the way we living a good life. It's also the circle of life, as I said earlier. So how does Egana and Pimatuin inform Indigenous knowledge or inform the curriculum? So the next slide. So we have our language and our culture, who you are as speakers of our language. It informs all aspects of the curriculum. It shapes it. So when we sit down and together and talk about how we're going to plan out a year or so, that will really help us. Make sure you have the elders there because they're the guide. They guide us in everything that we do. It privileges our history, culture and language and Indigenous knowledge. It also privileges the elders because I don't think we're privileged enough. We don't do that a lot. We don't celebrate each other enough. So they have intrinsic linguistic and cultural intellectual knowledge. So if you were to write a book about Dene Cree or Métis intellectual knowledge, it'll be volumes and volumes and volumes of books. So then we transfer knowledge through traditions and legends and mythology. And that's a whole new, I tell you, there's so much embedded in there. So I challenge you, do you know the creation stories in your community? Do you know the stories that come along with the teachings of your values, your grandfather's teachings? Because there is a lot. And you promote traditional knowledge to inform language revitalization. That's what we're talking about now, to revive, to wake up our languages and to reclaim it. And we contribute to best practices for language pedagogy. And like Tanya said earlier, pedagogy is how we teach the children. So when I was thinking, someone posted on Facebook last week, and they said about land, how do we do land-based? How do we plan? I said, well, first of all, get together and plan a year at a time. It is just a general term that I said. And then I thought about it. If we're going to plan a year, we're not going to cover the immense knowledge that we all hold. There is so much in there. Like to teach units about all aspects of Dene Cree epistemology, it's a lot, and it hasn't been provided to us through the Saskatchewan curriculum. So using our elders is first and foremost, and my dissertation talks about how we can change our curriculum to benefit our children, and how the work of elders is not plausible. Our work is not plausible without elders, the language holders, the land users, because we have a lot of land users up north, the hunters. They're out on the land as we speak right now. It doesn't matter whether it's -50. Kids are up there are used to the cold. And I remember someone posted last year, one of my nephews, school's closed today, it's too cold, I'm going to go haul wood. So he's going to haul wood that day. So next slide. Just let me know when my time's up. So, and it's really philosophical. The respect for everyone in this room, respect for the building, respect. I saw on a documentation about how life began, and it began with all Adam. We're all part of that as well. And you know that David Suzuki really talks about the respect of the Indigenous knowledge, and that it's something that should be followed, and also the stories of the elders. When that Franklin expedition, they couldn't find it for many years in the early 1900s, but the Inuit had been talking about it for a long time. They just didn't listen to them. So when they started to listen to the Inuit about their story about where this ship was, they found it. So, next slide, please. Do I really hear a baby? Wow. Anyway, benefits of teaching on the land. So you have to structure it, and I think it's about time we need to change the school year calendar. Why is our calendar based on the Saskatchewan curriculum? Because in other countries, in other Indigenous territory, they customize the calendar to when the geese are going, when the caribou are migrating in the Northwest Territories. So, but we still, I don't know, I'm embarrassed to say this, we still are behold to the curriculum because we have to have 199 days. So, anyway, to learn the history, the students will really learn the history and of the region that they live and provide meaningful context to learning. Because you need to know who you are. You need to know that you're Dene or Cree in that area. Because in our environment, we have Cree and Dene and Inuit that we visited each other. It's all, I think, up north by Knowlton Lake where they used to have these huge gatherings. So even our languages are kind of intertwined in there. So next, develop respect for the land and applicable survival skills. Kids need to know that when they're out on the land. So when the elders say, you know, there's certain areas that you can't go. You go out on the land, it's pristine, it's beautiful, but you need to know where you're going, because that beauty, you can get into trouble as well. You need to know the landscape. So speaking about landscape, when I hunt with the men, they would stop and they'd all pull out a cigarette and we would talk. Then they see an island there and they start talking about, you know, so-and-so lived there maybe about 100 years ago, and you know so-and-so, and they're just talking about stories about animals and about caribou, about moose, and very respectful. And I like that because they talk about sign language, where, using their whatever, and very respectful. Because if I said, out loud, I need to relieve myself, all of a sudden everybody turns, they're talking about that land over there. So, that's what I mean. I've slept out outside in the snow, really cold, and it was very warm. Because they take care of you. They really take care of you. So the next, please. I can't see. The language is on the land. It will teach you. And an elder who recently passed away for Black Lake said, the land teaches you a lot. The language is in there. So when you walk on that path, you will know. Because even teaching the concept of snow or hunting or animals, there are so many words for one, like even for ice in Dene. So the next one. Build personal and cultural identity, and we talked about identity already, and the sense of belonging, that we belong. And I think this is the timely now that we talk about identity with our youth, because like I said, we need to do a lot of work in that area to help our youth. I've heard a lot of elders say, you take the kids out on the land and they change. And a lot of research that I've read that backs up that land is healing, land is learning, land, it brings back identity. So students benefit opportunities to explore, to inquire, to learn on the land, and to be in a relationship with the land alongside elders, peers, and parents. So I put in this dog team analogy. So when we're teaching in our classrooms, Dene or Cree language or culture, so when we teach, do we truly use our language, or do we put in a lot of English words in there? To teach our language, we have to leave English, close the door and teach our language. So I was observing a language when I was still at PAGC, a teacher, a Dene language teacher, and the students were sitting around him, and it was during the time of winter carnivals. Winter carnivals are the same as the powwow trail. So we do a lot of competitions, a traditional competition. And as he was teaching, what do we do in winter carnival? So the kids are bringing out words, it's in English. In the meantime, right beside me are two little boys, and they game, right? And they're talking in Dene. And I'll explain it to you once I say that. And because if they do the gaming, it's their everyday life when they get home. So, and they're pretending they don't have that gadget. And he said, and oh, someone's, I'm glad, because I'm looking at my Dene people over there. He said, my dogs are faster than your dogs. This is the dialogue in Dene. But he said, no, my dogs can fly. And this is in Dene. So the imagination, the inquiry, the wanting to learn, if you listen to them, because they were told, you guys back there, be quiet. They missed a totally new concept and opportunity about dog team racing during Carnival. So we need to listen carefully to the students that we teach. So always, and as said earlier, they bring with them intellectual knowledge already. I was observing a teacher in PA and interning, and the teacher did not grasp this concept. So this one little girl, and the teacher said, well, you know, she has issues, she has good and bad days, so you know where that's going, right? So, and they were talking about, I forget what they were talking about, but she went up and she was saying a sawhorse. You know what a sawhorse is? So the teacher goes up and she starts, what is it? Well, it looks like a table. So the teacher drew a table. So totally misconcept. Even in Prince Albert, Saskatoon, they should know about the Indigenous students that they teach, because that child was bringing that information into the classroom that the teacher did not know. So Saskatchewan has a lot of work to do, I tell you. So next slide, I think. One more, down there. And I lost it here, so. Then we have to develop leadership skills and capacity in the community. And my good friend Lessard does a lot of work with that. I'm friends with Tommy Bird, I'm sure you've heard of him, Jarrett Nelson, they're all trappers, and Frank Cook and Brochet with Frontier School Division, and they're bringing nature into the classroom, and he's taking them out on the land as well. So what he said was, oh, today dogs are tired, it's cold, so I'm going to get the students to come over and we're going to feed the dogs and to make sure they're warm and just to keep them, you know, just to play with the dogs. So every day was a learning experience for the students. So the next slide. So every presentation, this is land-based, right? Land-based, the land provides, it provides everything that we need. So every presentation that you attend here, workshop, is just a fraction of land-based teachings, just a fraction. There's so much more to it. I responded to, well, I talked to about this already, so we'll go to the next one. Look at it holistically and all the universe, the epistemology, and consider all that way of life. Land-based education is not a metaphor. It's not a fly-by-night culture camp. I see that too often, and if you disagree with me, you can tell me later, because I feel right now it's a filler in right now. Okay, we're going to take the kids out on the land, we're going to go fish, we're going to hunt, but it's not planned adequately. And you need to plan to make sure there's safety that's happening. You need to make sure that there's elders along with this trip as well. And again, boy, this Facebook, I saw this land-based education happening, and I saw one student, they're digging an ice auger They're digging a hole, and you know what? That child was sitting on top of that ice auger, and it's going to run. I'm going, yikes, where's the teacher? So we have to be careful. So there's a lot. It takes a lot. Invest in your land-based teachers. Invest in your language teachers. Plan. Even if you take a year or two to prepare them, to teach them, to do the units, the year plans, every year what you're going to be teaching, rather than just pushing in the language program where the teacher speaks a language and doesn't have a formal education, but they do because they speak their language, but then the teacher becomes frustrated after a while. So invest in your people, invest in your own knowledge that you have. So I think we can complete that one too. So every day we have to give thanks, and there's one. If you like watching YouTube, watch one. It's from Australia. The land owns us, and there are many concepts in there, very similar. So, and he talked about Granny's laws, Mother Earth's laws, the land laws, things you have to do and can't do. So always use elders and land users' knowledge and to help you teach your concepts. But you have to explain that explicitly to the students what you're teaching. And even when you're, like Tanya said, when you dissect, we do caribou butchering, we do fish. I've seen where students very young are doing that. So, but then you have to also be careful, right? They're working with sharp knives. So, okay, next slide. Okay, I'm just having a hard time with this here. Sorry about that. So, walking the language path. I talk about seasons a lot, and then we have 6 seasons. So we have Haitazi, preparing before winter, Suke, preparing before summer. So the 6 seasons that we work with. And in the spring, about April, is when all the caribou hides that are tanned, they're scraped, the hair is taken off. They put the caribou brain on it to soften it, and they put it outside in the wind for 2 months in April. Nasat. The shifting of the sun is where the temperatures change. So when you take that moose or caribou hide in, you do the process, it's really soft. So that's the land sciences we talk about. The wind, the water, our language, sounds, like the elements. Nishti means the wind. So it's like the sound of the wind. We did scope and sequence with elders at Prince Albert Grand Council, and we found 48 Dene words to do with snow and ice. And it's different elements, different depths, what you can use, which snow that you could use. Another thing I found so interesting was the different levels of river, different words. So when you go towards, let's say, for instance, Otter Lake, Mississippi, you go, it's nice and clear, the water isn't moving. The closer you get to where the rapids begins, it's so clear, it's like a mirror. Then you move a little bit, and it starts to swirl easily. Then on the next phase, it's kind of like it's boiling, and then after, it's like the white water. So for every stage, there is a word. I've been there because I went down the Mississippi Rapids in a rubber tube when I was young and crazy. So, and then the animals as well. Like animals, mating season, it's the process of Mother Nature where that's really respected as well. The caribou, this is where I get into the spirituality of caribou. When the caribou leave, they migrate different months, and when they leave, they go back north on their migration. We say Na'at'a, which means when they run, when you see a caribou run, it doesn't touch the surface. It's like it's spiritual. So if you ever hear Dene drummers play, and when they tap the drum on the side there, that sound it makes, that's what it sounds like. It's like it's like a mirage. So the words, and that's what I meant by it's all metaphors, our language as well. And then when the fish are spawning, Shwe has us, meaning they're starting to move, they're starting to spawn. So it's animate, it's almost like a person. So because the elders told us at one time that we live at one time with animals, and we talked and we shared the land together. So the next. So then away, we follow, even with the berries, cloud berries, nahate means, the cloud berries, it only has a frame of how many weeks, a month or so, or even less. And it gets ripened, and then it ripens really fast. So they would say, nahate, they're leaving us. So how respectfully they use the words, and the seasons as well. In the fall, they call it Chadahiltsi. The earth is starting to prepare for winter, or metaphors like the fog. It had to do with a woman, and she was nicknamed the fog lady that causes the mist, and whenever that happens, you know that she's mad. So it's the concept that we're raised with. And mythology stories, I'm collecting a lot of stories, which you really need to be in the schools as well, and our laws as well. Ho'a, when we say ho'a, that's the law. So if I walk in front of an elder, I totally disrespected that elder. They always say, you can't. You can't, as a woman, when you're hunting, in your time of the moon, walk over the beloved caribou. Ho'a. You must not do that. So, and we follow those. We say that a lot, ho'a. So when you hear us say that's a law that we're talking about. And then some of the people who came in to study or lived with us, observing us, especially the priests that have been around there for years, they learned our language, and what they saw was, and they described it, before they settled into Wollaston Lake. Father McGrath has been with us for years and years, before we were even in the settlement, and he said, this is what he said, the Dene people in this area are rich in poverty and happy, which means they have nothing. They may have just this pack sack, they go hunting, but they always bring back because they know ways of the land. I always think our people should be part of that series alone. I think we do a lot better. Because when you watch it, you go, oh my goodness, they're actually doing that. I would, but I'm a little older now, so. So next slide. Okay. This basically, I'm just going to move forward here a little bit now, the worldview, how researchers had viewed and what they thought we were, because they were trying to figure out how we thought. And it's not coming up for me there. Oh, there. So all these researchers that I can go through, Helm, Sharp, Goulet, they're talking about the metaphysical, the cognition of Dene people and how they think. They should think, or we're going to grasp how they think. They never have. I would like to see a Dene person talk about, writing about how we think, because that truly would be awesome. Because we've been researched too much, right? Research, and I think, and I like what you said, we're going to turn that around, we're going to research and figure out why they couldn't understand us. But this is basically what the literature is saying about how it's a highly complex society, and reality space is who we are. A lot of you sitting here, either you have a language or a culture, you pick medicines, or you have all these stories. That's your reality right now. And there's so much knowledge in here, just in this room. So, and the next slide. And in terms of ideas for teaching in a classroom, Indigenous knowledge, I always use elders. This is my great aunt, the last living great aunt from my dad's side, the last of the Dizillion clan. My grandmother was her sister. My grandmother was the oldest, and she was the youngest, and she's still with us. She's going to be 95. Her mind is sharp. So I'm just going, wow, I'm going to have to go. So in terms of language that we want to learn, a couple of Dene scholars I've read is MacDonald, who uses his literature to build economic development in Fond du Lac by using legend stories. So I thought it was such a good concept, and we can do that as well. So cultural knowledge that we need, it has to be within our schools. Traditional knowledge skills, the stories are immense, the legends awesome. And mythology, there's a lot because it's in different dimensions. When we talk mythology, the Inuit call it floating space, where it is true about dream travel and how these stories, it's like Cinderella. She's okay. By midnight, she's going to turn back into a regular girl, and the pumpkin changes into a coach or vice versa. So if we can tell stories like that to our students, we should be telling the stories about how we have the little people, which I believe in. When I taught at St. Louis, the Cree of the South taught me about that. How let's go take offering over there for the little people that are there, because they like offering. So, and I did hear stories about that in Dene as well. It's real, they're out there. But it's how we've been suppressed for so long. We let people believe that those are beliefs we don't believe anymore. So, next slide. Lots of good things happening. I know in Cumberland House, they're still working on their BEd. The Dene, Clearwater Dene Nation, they're trying to decide when they are going to transition from kindergarten to grade 3 now to grade 4, when they're going to do that. So it's a community decision, but I think we should just keep pushing it for our language. And I hear there's good things happening. TPR, the Master's Apprentice program. In the North, it's more strengthening our language, the concepts in there. And I like in Nunavik, where they're taking young Inuit people out on the land with archaeological digs, and the artifacts that they find, they bring in the elders to talk, and then they take these artifacts to the museum, where they build stories. The elders build up the stories and talk about that, and it's really made the students interested in archaeology. So there's a lot that we need to work with in terms of the knowledge that we could be working with our students. Next slide. So I talked about this already. Language is metaphoric, like nahate, that's a metaphor. It's poetic, our language. Next slide. So, and we talk a little bit about Dr. I call him Dr. Ermine because he has a lot of knowledge, and he's taught me a lot on how children think and how we transfer information based on our knowledge that we hold, and how they retain that. So next slide. I'm going to keep going pretty fast here. So I took this photo in 1989, and that's a trip that I took with the students in the Twin Otter. And we were hunting, we're going along, and the guy said, I don't think they're around. I think we should turn back. Lo and behold, we're standing right there, resting. They come around this island. This is just a beautiful sight, I tell you. And that's where my creation stories began. So, next slide. Some researchers who really struggled to finish their dissertation, he did though, Cashton, he's out of BC, and he fought with this committee to use elders in his dissertation, and they finally let him, and he found that caribou is ceremony, so wherever caribou is, we're on the same journey as Dene people, so it's very spiritual. The next slide. I love the story, and Marianne is sitting over there. She's also an author that's sitting over there. She's done a lot of work in Dene, and when I was about 12, there was this young character there, and I didn't know what he was doing in Wollaston. He was Japanese. He was from Japan, and he was immersed right into the language and culture with elders, no English. So that tells you we can put you in the language environment and you can speak it. And that's what happened with him. So I found out later he was working on his research dissertation on the Dene people, because then we were just starting to come on to into the community way of life, sedentary life. And this is what he said. He analyzed 3 major issues: family and group structure, subsistence ecology, and caribou hunting strategy, all to do with the land. So, and he found that more research needed to be done in Inkonzi, which is the spiritual aspect of the way Dene and Cree people use that concept to live their life. So, and I went to see him in a cabin at the time. There was just cabins. And I went in. It's a small trapper's cabin. I walked in. I was so mesmerized because I think along the walls, all the boxes were plastered on the wall. And in every corner, crevice, it was Japanese writing everywhere. And that was the work that he was doing. I wish I could find him. But he left speaking Dene. He left knowing the way of the Dene. So really interesting. I like that. And I really appreciate researchers who have come and have done research on this, because now I can visualize what the Dene looked like in the 1700s. So in a lot of ways, we have to credit the work that's been done with missionaries. Petitot described the languages. Samuel Hearn was really explicit in his drawings, and he drew what we were, what we looked like. So those are the images that I would like to put in the minds of our children in the school. Because, and again, that's identity. I hear a lot, well, we can't go back to that life. I mean, why? But I disagree with that. Not go back to the life of 1700s or 1920s, but to keep our language and our culture, right? That's what we want to do. That's what we want to instill. So, next slide. Next slide. So we need elders. The drum, okay, I think we missed a couple, but I'll just go forward. So do you want to just keep going? From here on, it's just photos. The drum is really important for the Dene. The Dene resources, SIFC or SICC will have all the slides and the photos in there. I think it's going to be online. I don't know, but the photos are in there. So the Dene resources, next slide. We're just kind of zooming now. Next slide. The science of the land, which I talked about already. The elders, they still tan hides this way. I want to learn, but we talk about the sciences here. You have to have the right wood, the right wind, the right moss, and the right smoke. Because if you don't follow the teachings, your hide will be up in smoke in no time. That would probably happen to me. So next slide. I want to credit my young. She was a land-based hunter. She was a fisherman, trapper, hunter, really strong lady, and my first cousin's daughter, and she used to say, and she was big, you wouldn't want to tangle with her. She used to say, if anyone says anything to you, let me know, okay? So I always felt safe. Anyway, we did track and change research about, do you think the land is changing, climate change? And I like what she said. She said, yeah, there's change. I can't tell you exactly what it is, but I feel it. So can someone describe to me what feel is? Because they're on the land, they know every day the changes in the patterns, right? So they know that. So next slide. Next. Oh, there are photos of the water, and there was a tent in there. Yeah, you can just keep going here. This slide here, I just want to tell you about aromatherapy. In there is spruce boughs, and you sink into that after a long day of fishing or hunting, and the aroma in there is just totally awesome. And then the elders who teach us about the land. Keep going. You can just go from here on because it's all photos about up north that I've taken. The children fishing. My brother was trying to get me into trouble one day. We're fishing and we put in the jigger. Do you know what a jigger is? Any fishermen out here? So you talk about sciences and probability, you have to guess where that jigger is. So me, being the way I am, you would put it in and you would know it would go straight, on how you pull that string. And he had me running all over the place because he said, it's over there, it's over there. Anyway, but you need to know, you have to really listen carefully though. And you're fishing through about 30 feet or 30 feet, is it? Yeah, 33 inches or more of ice. You have to listen. So a lot to learn. And I'm a hunter, so I took this photo. I just love it, and I miss it. The outdoor cuisine. Yane Gold. Children doing hides. They're scraping hides. This is in the school. Medicine. I went and I picked medicine this summer, and I used it already because my stomach was upset. So, and the next one, and this is our what you call muskeg tea, Labrador tea. So, the basis of my knowledge is my late parents who passed away. They've taught me so much in many ways. I'm so grateful because I use it in my studies now. I use it in my studies to bring back our language, our culture, how we can have the next generation go forth. And as said earlier, it'll take a few generations to set us back on track. And it's our responsibility. All of you sitting in here, it's our responsibility. So I'm thinking, I look at my grandson and I go, what would life be with him in 50 years? Is he going to speak the language? Is he going to... So, and I've challenged chiefs at PAGC because in all the policies it says our students will walk impeccably in two worlds. So I challenged them. Are they impeccably speaking your language? No. We have a long way to go. So to reach, I know all parents want English. We can fight with them, but we have to abide by what they say as well. And that our goal is to have our students be proud of who they are, wherever they go in this world, as the Maori have done. Their goal is when you go to a different country, you always stand up and be proud to say you're Maori. And even though I wasn't allowed to speak my language or see my culture, I'm still very proud to be a Dene woman, and I'm an advocate for what I'm doing right now. So, merci, Cyril. Oh, thank you for listening.